Welcome, guys. Pocket Pickers here, and this is going to be episode number 1 of a new small series I'm going to be releasing over the next couple of weeks. So, today's video is about the history of pennies, large and small cents. The next few weeks are going to be the history of the other US denominations that we have currently in circulation, with some fun facts here and there, and some information that some people ask frequently or may not even know. So, let's dive into it. History of the penny. Over 300 billion 1-cent coins with 11 different designs have been minted since 1787. Now, the penny was the first currency authorized by the U.S. from the Mint Act of 1792, signed by our first president, Mr. George Washington. The design for the first 1-cent coin was suggested by Benjamin Franklin. So he actually had the idea for having a 1-cent coin instead of smaller fractional denominations. We have been calling our 1-cent coins pennies for centuries, and this is largely because our 1-cent coin was inspired by the British penny, which, as you know, we broke away from Britain to get our independence. The low face value of the first cents meant that they circulated widely, which helped to reinforce for the general population the idea that America had finally arrived. The initial coin designs did not feature images of U.S. presidents. Rather, they often featured allegorical images of liberty, depicted as a woman, and other symbols of the United States. Beginning in 1909, the penny's obverse had featured President Abraham Lincoln to honor his 100th birthday. The penny was redesigned in 1959 for his 150th birthday, and again in 2009 for his 200th birthday. So now let's go into the cents from the beginning. So it started with Fugio coppers in 1787. On the right, I have an image of what it looked like, so while I'm describing it, you can look at it and understand some of the things I'm saying. It was the first authorized cent, and they were struck by private mints. It was usually called the Franklin cent because it was his idea, the sundial cent, which is because of this sundial right here in the center of the obverse, ring, and mind your business cents. So a sundial is depicted on the obverse with the sun above it, and the legends Fugio, which means I fly, and mind your business is accompanied by the date 1787. So as you see on the front here, it literally says mind your business, which is actually kind of crazy. It's a stick at the British once we gained our independence. The reverse features 13 connected chain links to represent the original states, with the legend United States and the motto, We Are One. So this was an amazing step for the United States people, showing widely that we are one, we are the United States, we are here to stay, and Britain, mind your own business, we're not yours anymore. Moving into the next cent, it was called the Flowing Hair cent. It was made in 1793. It was the first cent produced from a U.S. mint, and it was the first large cent. It's about half the size of a current half dollar. A poor design flaw led to the Ameri variety on the chain cent. So that's where the spacing on the back here was not proper, so they could only do United States of Ameri because they didn't have room for the cuss. So that's a very popular variety that is very wanted, but there aren't many left because they're from 1793. It was the last handmade die used for cents. So these here were put on dies by hand. They were engraved. Everyone was individual and a little different. Many people had issues with the chain design on the back of the original coin. The mint said it was to show unity and freedom, but others said it reminded them of slavery. So it was switched to later having the wreath reverse, shown here on the bottom. And into our next cent here, we have the Liberty Cap from 1973 to 76. The design was borrowed from a medal conceived by Benjamin Franklin. Seems like we're going back to Ben Franklin a lot here. It was the first cent to use a punch for designs, so these weren't made by hand, they were just punched into the coins. It led to better struck coinage and faster production. Halfway through production, size was reduced of these coins. They were 100% copper, and the first ones produced were 13.48 grams, and then they were 10.89 afterwards. The man who designed this coin off of the metal caught and succumbed to yellow fever in 1793, leading to the mint hiring a new head engraver who redesigned this coin. So here in 1796 to 1807, we have the draped bust. It was designed by Robert Scott. It was modeled after a drawing by artist Gilbert Stuart. Once again, these coins are 100% copper and weigh 10.98 grams. There are 3 varieties of reverses. Each varies the leaves and berries on the reef. They are known as the type of 1794, type of 1795, or type of 1797. All 3 types were used on the reverse of 1796 cents, with the latter 2 types on the 1797. The last reverse remained constant on the dates through 1807. Over 16 million draped bust large cents were made between 1796 and 1807 when the cent was finally retired. Next, it was made into the classic head cent from 1808 to 1814. The new design was concurrent with new die steel, allowing 300,000 impressions per die. So before they were using the stamps, they weren't getting a really good life out of it, but now that they have a steel die, it's allowing many more impressions and way better impressions on these coins, as you can see on the right there in the image. Impression was not as good as past, only because softer copper was starting to be used, and there were just 4.8 million of these struck in the 6 years. A cent shortage arose in 1809, but the mint ran out of planchets to help make them to keep up with demand. 1815 was another coin shortage year, with no coin struck due to a copper shortage from the War of 1812. It is the only missing year in cent coinage for U.S. history to date. These are 100% copper and also 10.89 grams. After that, in 1816, we got the coronet head set. These went on until 1839. So the image is a fillet holding the hair on the previous classic head series. It was replaced by a coronet and the word Liberty was added in relief. The coronet type is also known as the matron head. By the end of its production, the mint was now using steam-powered presses. In its 24 years of production, over 51.7 million pieces were minted in 100% copper at 10.89 grams each. So something I didn't write here is that many people actually hated this design for the coin, even though it went on for over 24 years. Because here on the obverse, people started saying, oh, they're displaying a fat liberty. We don't want that. That's not us, you know? And people were just really upset about that, and the U.S. Mint got a lot of backlash. But once that was retired, the braided hair cent came to be, from 1839 to 1857. The bust portrait of Liberty is wearing a coronet with the crown inscribed with Liberty, surrounded by the traditional 13 stars with the date below. The coin designs had nicknames describing Miss Liberty vividly to illustrate the public's disdain, from the Liberty in a Fright of the chain cents, through the classic head's fat mistress, like I was telling you on the last coin, to the obese ward boss of the matron head. As you can tell, people were not happy with the depictions of Liberty that were on these coins. But the braided hair cent was also 100% copper and weighed 10.89 grams. The mint realized that the large cent was too unpopular, so they stopped production and started a new one, the small cent. So, this is where we get into our common size coins of today. The Flying Eagle was produced from 1856 to 58. It was the first copper and nickel cent, and it made them look brighter. People on the streets called them the white cent or nicks because it contained nickel. It features a flying eagle on one side and a wreath on the other, earning it the name the Flying Eagle cent. On May 25th at 9 a.m., the mint doors opened to a crowd of over 1,000 eager Philadelphians trying to get their hands on these new cents. Demand was so great that many resold their new coins on the steps of the mint for a profit within minutes of receiving them. So people literally had bags and bags of these old large cents that they hated. They absolutely disliked them with all of their being. They went to the mint lined up to get a chance at getting these brand new white cents. And the mint was running out when people were trading in their large cents, so they didn't have enough to suffice people, and there were too many people to get through quickly. So people who got these coins realized, you know what, I can make myself a nice buck if I just sell a couple of these, and that's what they did. The adaptation of the design used on patterned silver dollars 20 years before is what inspired this Flying Eagle set. It is 88% copper and 12% nickel, weighing only 4.67 grams, less than half of the large cent, just a couple years before. Now, the Flying Eagle cent is really hard for us to get our hands on today in 2024, but Indian head cents, they're a possibility still. And I actually own myself about 5 or 6 of these that I have bought offline for about $4 or $5 a piece. Now, this is just because I wanted a piece of history to hold on to, but finding these in circulation is rare. Coin roll hunters like myself average about 1 Indian head cent every 100 boxes they get from the bank. Think, 100 $25 boxes they have to look through to find just one of these now. That is so hard to find in circulation. So the simplicity of the Indian head coin satisfied everyone. It depicts an Indian princess, and a funny thing about it is when this coin was released, a popular story came out about its design. It claimed that a visiting Indian chief lent the designer's daughter his headdress so she could pose as the Indian princess model for this coin. Now, the reverse side has 1 cent within a laurel wreath for only 1 year in 1959. In 1860, the reverse design was changed slightly, replacing the laurel wreath with an oak wreath. 1859 to 64 were 88% copper and 12% nickel at 4.67 grams. 1864 to 1909 were bronze, 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc at 3.11 grams each. Almost 1.85 billion Indian head cents were minted. And I apologize for that typo earlier. It says reverse side has 1 cent within a laurel wreath for 1 year only. In 1959, that's supposed to say 1859. So I really apologize for that. But let's move on to what we know now as the Lincoln cent. So, the Lincoln wheat cent, or wheat penny, was minted from 1909 to 1958. It commemorated the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln penny is now the longest running design in the United States mint history. Lincoln was the first historical figure to grace a U.S. coin when he was portrayed on this 1 cent. As you saw earlier, we had fictional depictions of liberty as a female with different ways of showing how she was free. And the Lincoln penny really broke that tradition with honoring someone great from our history. It was also the first U.S. cent to include the words, "In God We Trust," which is really interesting to me since we were founded really on a Christian country, and we still are today. So it took till 1909 to have those words on it really shocks me. Massive public outcries that the VDB initials on the back were a tasteless self-advertisement. So, as you can see down here on the bottom, we have VDB for the designer of this coin, Victor David Brenner. So people were saying he's putting his initials on here too big. It's really rude of him to do that and put the coin about him, not Lincoln. So the U.S. Mint quickly removed his initials from the back so people would be satisfied. Because as you know, people always have a lot to say about coins, and we change it to satisfy them. Only 484,000 coins were struck at the San Francisco Mint with the VDB initial on the back. As a result, the Lincoln S VDB penny is one of the rarest and most coveted coins in the series. 1909 to 1942 and 1947 to 1958 were bronze 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc coins, and 1944 to 1946 were gilding metal of 95% copper and 5% zinc, both at 3.11 grams. So if you're like, hey, where did 1943 go? We have you covered. Right here, we have the Lincoln Steel cent of 1943. So, in 1943, there was an urgent need for copper to make munitions for the war effort during World War II. So zinc-coated steel cents were made for the first and only time in history. They are a bright white chrome-like appearance and have magnetic properties. Only regular issue United States coin that can be picked up with a magnet. Still, in United States history, this is the only coin that can have that happen. It's also the only coin issued by the United States for circulation that does not contain any copper content. Even gold coins at various times contained from slightly over 2% copper to an eventual standardized 10% copper in them. So these coins, since they were zinc-coated steel, only weighed 2.72 grams, and these are really hard to come by. People kind of liked them at first, but it was really hard for some people to distinguish these coins from dimes just by color because it was so close in size and color. So people were really upset with that, and it also didn't help the fact that they rusted over very, very quickly because of the zinc and steel content. So it made them look like old dimes, so people were still upset about that. After the wheat cents, we moved on to our Lincoln Memorial cents, minted in 1959 all the way to 2008. So as you can see, we're getting a little more common as we go. The Lincoln Memorial cent marked the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The reverse was designed by Frank Gasparo, an assistant mint engraver at the time, who later became the mint's chief engraver. The coin was officially released on February 12, 1959, the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. December 21, 1958, President Eisenhower issued a press release announcing that a new reverse design for the cent would begin production on January 2, 1959. The redesign came as a complete surprise to the public, as word of the proposal had not been leaked. From 1959 to 1962, the pennies were bronze, 95% copper, and 5% tin and zinc mix. From 1962 to 82, gilding metal was used, 95% copper with 5% zinc, both at 3.11 grams. Now, some of the 1982s and all of the 83 through 2008 were copper-plated zinc, being 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, weighing only 2.5 grams. So that's an easy way to tell the difference between the composition of these cents is just by weighing them, because 3.11 and 2.50 was a big difference, especially on a scale that goes to the hundredths place. Next, we have our Lincoln Bicentennial cent from 2009. It was released for Lincoln's 200th birth anniversary. So these coins have a low mintage for every design, really. It's the lowest penny production for like the last 50 years, modern. The rarest of these is the presidency design, which is down here on the bottom right. So they were released in this order: birth and early childhood, formative years, professional life, and presidency. They are all copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams. After that, we got our Lincoln Shield cents that we are very common with today as they are still being released currently. So they are from 2010 to when I'm making this video. There are 18 designs that were submitted to the Commission of Fine Arts and the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee to try and get their reverse put on this coin. The, quote, preservation of the Union, end quote, reverse design is emblematic of President Abraham Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single and united country. It features the Union shield, which dates back to the 1780s and was used widely during the Civil War. 2017 is the only year that Philadelphia cents have had a mint mark on their coin, and this was for their 225th anniversary. So when those first came out, people were caught off guard because they're like, what's going on? Why does my coin have a P? So people started asking the mint, and they're like, oh yeah, we snuck that on there. Surprise, it's for our 225th anniversary. And people were kind of, I wouldn't say upset, but really felt like they couldn't trust the mint in a way because they didn't tell them that they were going to do something like that. These pennies are also copper-plated zinc at 2.5 grams. So after that, we have the very horrible talk for me since I love searching pennies. It is about the elimination of the penny. It has been suggested that the penny should be eliminated as a unit of currency for several reasons. For example, many Americans do not actually spend pennies, but rather only receive them in change at stores and proceed to return them to the bank for higher denomination currencies, or cash them in at a coin counting kiosk. For modern vending machines, most don't even accept pennies, further diminishing their utility. In addition, the production cost now exceeds the face value of the coin, caused by increasing inflation. For the past 16 years, pennies have averaged 2.5 cents for the production of the face value of 1 cent. In regard to the penny, the U.S. Mint evaluated one potential metallic alternative. Currently, the penny consists of copper-plated zinc. The biennial report notes that the U.S. Mint investigated the potential use of copper-plated steel as an alternative. While the U.S. Mint notes that a new penny would likely be seamless, I would work interchangeably in a vending machine or a coin counter with current coins, it, quote, is not expected to yield significant cost savings, as differences in metals costs between zinc and steel are offset by high fabrication costs associated with plated steel planches, end quote. Unlike the current penny, however, the new metallic blend might, quote, enable multiple suppliers, providing a long-term economic advantage, end quote. So what they're saying here is that it is costing them 2.5 times the face value to make these coins. And they're looking at new alternatives to make these pennies out of, but they're not sure what they're going to do yet because it all depends on the market, which is why these pennies cost so much to make now, is the market. Now, on that daft note, let's bring you another kind of terrible slide, and I really apologize for it. The biggest issue with some people in pennies is the toxicity of it. So zinc, a major component of U.S. cents minted after mid-1982, is toxic in large quantities. Swallowing such a coin, which is 97.5% zinc, can cause damage to the stomach lining because of the high solubility of the zinc ion in the acidic stomach. Coins are the most commonly ingested foreign body in children, but generally are allowed to pass spontaneously unless the patient is symptomatic. Zinc toxicity, mostly in the form of the ingestion of the U.S. pennies minted after 1982, is commonly fatal in dogs, where it causes a severe hemolytic anemia. It is also highly toxic in pet parrots and can often be fatal. So I honestly don't know how your parrot would eat a penny, but this is kind of scary to know that your loved pets and possibly children could die just by eating one of these coins. Now, for some other penny info. So some people ask this because they don't necessarily know, but a roll of pennies, which is 50 cents in pennies, holds 50 coins. Now, these small cents have a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. And a box of pennies from the bank only costs you $25. This is really why I start out with pennies in my coin hunting journey, because it's relatively inexpensive and you can find a lot of great things. The rarest Lincoln has to be the 1909 SVDB with only like 484,000 minted. And the most widely known penny error, I have to say, is probably the 1955 DDO. As you can see, there is just double everything on this coin, and it's so hard to miss that. So, with this, I hope you really loved this video and learning about the history of our United States denomination, the cent, or as we commonly call them, the penny. So, this is Pocket Pickers signing out with my first denomination video, and I'll see you in the next one.